Hey everybody, welcome back to the Autopilot on podcast. I'm Scott and my co-host today is Connor. Hey Connor, welcome.
Hello, aviators. Happy to join you guys today.
John is on long call reserve this month. He made a mistake of bidding long call reserve and he's being punished for it. They called him in for a 3-day trip, of course. So it's just Connor and I today. We've got quite a bit to talk about though. So John and I recently recorded a Spirit update. However, Connor, being a furloughed Spirit pilot, has inside information that we don't usually have access to. So, um, why don't you tell us what's going on with attrition over there, Connor?
Yeah, so everybody knows the whole Spirit story. It's feel bad for the brothers and sisters over there. They're really going through it. We do have some October attrition numbers that I think the listeners might be interested in. Seems like everybody, not everybody, but most carriers starting to see some movement in the hiring. So congratulations to everybody out there. Hopefully, everybody gets picked up where they want to be at. So 76 pilots left Spirit Airlines in October. 36 went to United, 10 American, 3 UPS, 3 SkyWest, 2 Part 91 and Part 135s, 4 retirements, and 18 unknown. So that brings us to a grand total of 76 people. We're up to
Wow,
452 on the year. So we have
wow,
about a month and a half of this year left, give or take. So I'm anticipating probably another 100. So just under 600 pilots would have left Spirit willingly this year. That's not even including
wow.
all the furloughs. So
Right.
they're obviously skinning down. I listened to y'all's discussion last episode, and to where they need roughly 1,400 pilots for their 100 airplanes. So they are certainly on their way to that number. And it's
Yeah.
just it's sad, but hey, you got to give some love to the 452 that saw the writing on the wall and got out of there, man. Good on y'all.
Yeah. So the 18 unknown, they resigned. They just don't know where they went.
From what I'm aware of, whenever you leave a company, you put in where you're going to, and to me, those 18 just said, "I'm not telling you where I'm."
Okay. Okay, but they did resign. That they know
But
they resigned. Okay.
correct, that they no longer
Okay.
have a seniority number at that airline.
Wow. Wow. I mean, that's awesome that all those guys are getting jobs, you know. I mean, you know, it's I was talking to you before we got started here. I had deadhead on a flight from Dallas back to Denver a couple weeks back, and there was another guy jump sitting on there who came over to chat with us, and he's a Spirit guy who just started at United, who's starting his in dock at United the next day. Um, and he was saying that about half his class was Spirit guys at United, and so I know that they're heavily recruiting the Spirit guys, which is great. You know, I mean, it sucks that y'all have to go find new jobs, but I'm glad to hear that, moving on to bigger and better things, right?
Yeah, and
76
I'm
Unite
sure
or
it's
yeah, I mean,
not
it's
I'm
great.
sure it's not easy, being a senior guy at Spirit and having to start over at a new airline, but at the end of the day, it's what has to be done. Everybody knows
Right.
it now. Whenever I got furloughed back last year, there was still a lot of speculation. Oh man, this could be a 2 month to 2 year furlough. This very well could be an indefinite furlough. So the guys that are getting out now, I commend them. It's not an easy thing to do, especially guys and girls that have families and starting over. It really is sad, but there is a bunch of people that got furloughed from Spirit that still do not have jobs. So,
Yeah.
credit to United and American and these other guys that are coming in and lightening the load a little bit. But there is guys that are still instructing, doing what you got to do. And but the good news is, like I mentioned earlier, it does seem like we're kind of in the prime time of hiring again. It's not what it was, but we're certainly seeing increased numbers, which is very good to see. The airline industry seems to be healing.
Yes. We were just talking about this. I believe United is on track to hire 4,000 pilots next year, and which
That is
is
crazy. That's a
incredible.
crazy number.
I mean, yeah, Scott
We're
Kirby
back to
wants to
30 people classes again.
twice a month. Scott wants to bring make United the largest airline, and he is easily on track to exceed Delta real quick if he hasn't already. And then American, I believe, is 2,000 plus next year. Um, Delta's another 1,000, and then Southwest just started hiring. It's going to be several hundred if the max gets signed off sometime next year. Then man, they're going to open the floodgates. It'll be probably 1,000 or more of them. So
Absolutely.
UPS still hiring. American. Who else? There's 91 135 stuff too.
They're
So
always hiring,
yeah.
and you need to do as much volunteer work, any union work that you possibly can do to kind of propel yourself to the top of these lists because they do have applications that are indefinitely long. I was talking to somebody that just got picked up at United. They seem to be doing all the hiring. Got hired at 2,500 hours of total time and 1,000 hours of turbine time. So you do the math on that. This person got hired with 1,500 hours, basically as a CFI, sat
Mm-hmm.
there for 3 years. Now he's going
Mm-hmm.
right over to United, and don't know this person personally, but I do know that the information that was passed along to me is credible, and they are going to live a long, good, hopefully good career over at a stellar airline. So the writing's
Yeah,
on
they're
the
probably
wall.
young too.
Probably so. I just have a friend that he actually just quit Frontier Airlines to join a Part 135 job charter operation just because, the airline wasn't his style. So not only are people leaving willingly, or people are leaving willingly, and some people it just doesn't fit. The airline lifestyle just doesn't fit them. So these
Yeah.
openings are starting to come up, and it sounds like at your current airline, the classes are starting to increase quite a bit too. So it really is good just to see this big silver lining after we've kind of been 6 foot under for the pretty much all year.
Well, yeah, yeah. It's we've talked about this in the past. It's kind of cool to see how the cycle has changed, at least for the short term in the industry. We used to see these 7 year high and low cycles where it would be, every 5 to 7 years we'd have a major downturn. People would get furloughed, no hiring. But now it's kind of this. It's gone from like the extreme to we have all this hiring and then it just kind of stagnates. Now we have all this hiring again. And I don't know if we'll see another big crash like that in the near future. It might just be this weird stagnant hiring process, which is, I mean, you compare it to the past that the guys that have had to deal with. It's awesome, that we in our current life cycle as pilots don't have to deal with these you being an exception, being a Spirit furloughed guy. Most people don't have to worry about, getting laid off for years and not being able to find a job. Cause that's the big thing. Like, you were able to find a job pretty quick after you got furloughed, and a lot of guys at Spirit now that are leaving are able to find jobs, which is really cool. Whereas in the past, they just get furloughed and now they're, the trash man or working at Walmart or something, cause that's all they could do back then. Now they're
Yeah,
able to go get other work.
you're exactly right. And the people that I fly for, we just got done doing a aircraft acquisition. They got rid of one airplane and they just bought another one. So I was able to be kind of involved in that process as much as a pilot can be.
Mm,
And one of the aircraft brokers who I got to know pretty well that was brokering this deal, he was an ex American Airlines 777 pilot. And it just he didn't like it anymore. He had a bunch of buddies that got furloughed, but for him, he's like, "Hey, there's other options out there other than flying that are in the aviation spectrum." And he picked up being an
yep,
aircraft broker. And here he is doing multi-million-dollar deals and he's enjoying
it's
his life
crazy.
much more. So that there's just unlimited I'd say unlimited, but there's a lot of opportunity in the aviation field and it's such a tight fraternity that pretty much everybody's going to know everybody in the aviation industry. So don't ever burn a bridge. Continue to be as good of a pilot as you possibly can be. And whenever somebody starts talking about you, you want that person to say, great guy, great girl, give that guy a shot. That's all you can have control over. Everything else you do not. So control the things that you can control, and good things will happen. Everybody talks, as you're well aware.
Absolutely. It's a you know, it's a small world, this industry. Everybody knows everybody. Yeah,
Exactly.
I guarantee that you can speak with any pilot and you guys are no more than a couple degrees separation away. You know somebody who knows them and vice versa. It's good to see that there's a lot of movement coming, and I'm glad to see that, a lot of these Spirit guys that are leaving are finding their feet and moving on to hopefully bigger and better things. Um, so yeah.
Couldn't agree more. But yeah, as far as Spirit goes, I did see where they got a new TA. Um, they did reduce pay by about 8% up until the year,
Mhm.
and don't quote me on this. It's either 28 or 30, 2028 or 2030. Then they'll be back made whole. They went from a 16% 401k input into your account down to 8%, I believe, and they'll bring that back to 16, maybe even higher percent in 2028 or 2030, one of the two. So they are doing their best to stay in business, and I really hope that they do.
Mhm.
They gave me a shot whenever I needed one, so I'll forever be grateful for them. I really hope that they dig themselves out of this hole.
We'll see where it goes. It's been the saga for John and I. It's been covering the Spirit saga, and we were talking. We're making the joke. What's going to happen if they end up going out of business? We're going to have nothing to talk about. So we'll see what see what goes.
They've made a lot of talking points over the past year and a half.
Yes, yes, a lot of content generation for us. So, um, all right, let's move on to general aviation stuff. Uh, you're really good at tracking the stats in GA. So tell us what's going on with that.
Yeah, so I'm in the 135 field of things now. So I do, and I've always loved general aviation. So with that, I keep my ear to the ground. This year, we have had a total of 130 fatal accidents in the general aviation side of flying. And you can divide that down to about 12.35 per month, which is lower than going back to 2019, 2020. We're at the lowest amount of fatals per month right now. I don't know if you can contribute that to luck. I don't know if you can contribute that to technology, or just that we're evolving as pilots. I think we're probably evolving as pilots. We're all the regulations are written in blood. I think that we're starting to learn. And with that being said, we still do have a couple winter months to end this year, which we
Yep.
do see a high volume of icing accidents, VFR and IMC accidents. So we really need to start and continue to do good pre-flights to keep this number down as much as we can
Mhm.
be. The icing's already started. If you haven't already, go ahead and flip your brain into the winter operations side of it. We're going to be doing a lot of de-icing starting now. Down here in Texas, it hadn't gotten cold yet, but it's coming up there in the mountains. I'm
Mhm.
sure it's already there. Uh,
Mhm.
so with that being said, Scott, what for new pilots, what would you how do you typically prepare yourself for a normal everyday flight, uh just going from point A to point B? What are the items that you do religiously?
A great question. Well, for me, before I even leave the house, number one, I make sure that all my software is updated since everybody's EFB reliant nowadays, right? So you got to make sure you're all up to date on that. And then I review. First thing I like to do is check the weather. I'll pull up. I have a personal subscription to ForeFlight that I use, and so I'll pull that up because it's one of the best tools for gathering all the information in the area. Even a day or two before my flights, I'll start okay, where am I going on this trip? Even when I did this as a GA guy, I would look up the day or two before, see where I'm going, check the weather, what it looks like in the next few days, mostly so I could pack what I needed. But it's thinking ahead, right? Yeah,
Bring your puffer jacket.
and That's right. Do I need my puffer or am I bringing my swim trunks? Where are we going? And so I do that, get my weather up to date, and then there's a real great. So in the air traffic control world, there's something called Traffic Management Unit (TMU), and they're the ones that deal with all the system delays. They assign slots at airports that have slots, and they have a website. It's the NAS status website, which is tied directly to TMU, and it it shows all the delays, closures at airports, and why there's, maybe there's flow delays going places. If it also lets you know where there's de-icing operations occurring, and then I think it's every 12 hours or something, they do at the air traffic command center in DC. They hold a meeting to talk about what delays and closures they're expecting in the next day or so. And so they post that on there. It's a real great site. Anybody can go to it. All right. Are you able to see my
Yeah, there it
screen?
is. The National
Okay. Okay, cool. So,
Airspace System Status.
yep, this is the NAS system status page. It's part of traffic management's program. And so it's a live feed. So anybody can go to this. It's nasstatus.faa.gov, for all our US listening pilots. And so it gives you statuses of all the airports that have an issue. So, Dallas has a ground delay due to thunderstorms right now, 141 minutes, inbounds, 45-minute departures. Um, Syracuse is closed to aircraft with weather mod or geoengineering equipment. So that's a very specific closure. They must have somebody doing stuff in the area they don't want. DFW's got a delay. MBS is de-icing. Teterboro always delays 30 minutes to volume. Um, RDD is closed except to helicopters from 1 a.m. to 7 a.m. daily. So, it gives you all the status of the system. And then if, for example, Newark, okay, they're always on the delay, but there's a 51 due to other. And then you can click on this advisory here. And this is what the FAA, people in like a center and stuff, this is what they'll see on their screens when they pull it up because it's all DOS based. So this is really cool. It gives you, okay, this is a staffing issue. It says impacting condition staffing, right? In the comments, rate change from the proposal, 4 hours of a 30, no other changes, concerns, and then some other stuff for edicts. And it tells you what the flow rates are. This is how many they can bring in an hour. So 46, 36, 30, 30, 30, 30. So it's showing you what their arrival rates are going to be, which airports are included. So, this one says Canadian ones. Sometimes it specifies others, minimums and average delays, maximum delays. So it gives you a ton of information. And then you go back to the main page and you come down and here's our forecast for what they're expecting. So Newark delays, Teterboro's, Austin, San Antonio delay programs possible, and it tells you the time frame, which is really cool. So after 4 or until 5 p.m. or until 8 p.m. Vegas is expecting ground stop. There's a bunch of weather in SoCal right now, so it's all moving into Vegas, and they can't handle weather. En route stuff normally right here in this active en route section that's blank. Any GA guys or like corporate guys, going to Florida, Jackson Center always has delays. So there would actually be a depiction, a map depiction up here, and it would show you like a line of where the flow restrictions are for Jackson or for any center restriction. It tells you, staffing or weather or whatever the reason for the delays. Swap arrival, flow restrictions are possible in the en route plan stuff down here. And then here's the full ops plan I was talking about. So they do this um, every, it's like every 12 hours or so. And so this is really cool. It tells you kind of a synopsis of what's going on. Newark has staffing issues. Dallas is ground stopped if needed for weather, kind of a overall. And then it goes into the details of all the facilities and stuff. So, if, it's another series of acronyms you might have to learn for some of this stuff, but it gives you a good overall thing. This is really helpful even for somebody in a 172, man. Like this could be helpful if you're going into, Class Charlie's, Deltas, or even Bravo Airport. Some guys do that.
My
Um,
goodness, could you? I
and
mean,
then
could
down
you
below here,
imagine if? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. No, the last part I really like down here, which you can't find anywhere else is, so they have space launch planned here. So they tell you when all the space launches are planned for and where they are. So it gives you a heads
Wow.
up if you guys like to look at spacecraft. And then if they're doing flight checks or VIP movements also. So if there's going to be like a presidential TFR or something and it's planned, then you get a heads up on that right here. So you don't have to wait till it pops up on ForeFlight or something. So this is a big thing I like to look at. I know it sounds like a lot. Oh, while we were talking, Teterboro just updated. They're in a ground stop now. And so I know it looks like a lot, but once you kind of get your flow, you're able to glance at it and see what's relative to you. So I'm hoping that's helpful to some people. So that's part of my other my pre-flight stuff. And then when I was flying GA, I would depending on the aircraft I was flying, I flew uh when I my last year I did all contract stuff. So if I had flown the airplane before, I knew where to look for maintenance stuff going on. If not, I would call whoever my contact was on the aircraft that I was going to be flying and say, "Hey, can you give me updated maintenance records?" Always want to check your maintenance stuff. And then obviously, as part of your weather briefing with ForeFlight, you're checking your TFRs, you're doing your flight planning, you're checking your airspace, all the pre-flight stuff, right? And it's funny because even at the airline level, now we do the same stuff. The nice thing is that we just have a dispatch team that kind of puts that all together for us. So we're not having to file and a lot of that planning. We still have to be just as aware as anybody, and that's why any guy you fly with, for the most part, all the guys I fly with are going to do the same stuff that you're doing in your Gulfstream or that a brand new listener is doing in his 172. It's all your primary stuff you learned. You use it every day, which is really cool when you think about it. So,
Man.
kind of a long answer, but hey, that's how I do it.
No, the listeners just got a very valuable insight of how a professional 121 pilot does his pre-flight planning. And that's a guy that does it every day, that has dispatchers that theoretically do that job for him, but professionals always go in and look at it themselves. Can you imagine if you're, you know, maybe you fly 150, 200 hours a year. Maybe it's in a Conquest 2, maybe a King Air, and your boss needs to go into JFK or LaGuardia. And we just found out they have a 141-minute delay. Is that going to change your fuel planning a little bit? Yeah,
Hell yeah.
I think it is. Give me all the bad
Yep.
information up early and soon so I can plan for it instead of getting wheels down on the ground. Everybody's loaded up. We're headed out to departure and oh yeah, hey, by the way, boss, we got a two hour and 30-minute delay. And by the way, we got to go back and get fuel. Nobody wants that to happen.
No,
And so I think that's really valuable insight of kind of and that's just before we even get to the aircraft. All that
thank you.
is getting looked at.
Yeah. Well, and it's great because, like, the big thing I learned when I learned about this TMU page when I worked as a controller, um, and it really changed how when got back into being a pilot and moved into being a professional pilot. It it's such a great heads up, like you said. You could just not look and show up and find out what's going on, or you can take a couple moments and look at this. Oh, Austin's in a ground stop now. Just update.
Bad weather here right
Yeah,
now.
weather's moving all over Texas right now. And so like this page, it's amazing, and I've been sharing it with a lot of the guys I fly with in the 121 world, and it's funny because once I started sharing it, all the guys started talking to each other, and now I start flying with guys who are pulling it up before I even have to tell them now, which is really cool, you know, and because it's so helpful and it's a live update, so you could see what's going on in the system across the country. It's a great insight, and it's free. It's
It's
free. Um,
FREE. I
yeah,
have a
that's right.
perfect I have a perfect example of something that I observed over this past weekend. So
Okay.
with with our owners and our bosses, we go to some smaller airports mainly for SEC game days, and
Okay.
6 days, 8 days out of that year is whenever they're just slam busy with all the jet travel for these SEC game days. Well, a lot of times these ramps get so full that it's drop and go only, meaning you can drop your passengers off, but you can't park your airplane there. There's not enough space or room to accommodate all the aircraft. So people will drop off their passengers and they'll fly to the nearest city and just go sit and wait till the game's over. Well, there was a NOTAM, which is a notice to airmen, and that's basically giving you information of something that is happening or something that will happening. On this example, there's this NOTAM said there is no arrivals into this airport from the hours of 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Well, guess what? The game ends at 8 p.m. So all these guys that are doing these drop and goes, they can't come pick their passengers up until around midnight. So I'm sitting there waiting on our passengers. Luckily, we had a parking spot. Everything was arranged, thank goodness, where we could just pick our passengers up and fly back home. Well, there is an FBO full of people moaning and complaining about how they're not getting picked up from their pilots. And it's because half of the pilots read the NOTAM and said, "Hey, by the way, I'm not going to be able to come get you until 11:30 midnight. So it might be valuable if you just find a hotel or go to the bar, go get you something to drink, and then I'll be there at around 11, 12." And the other half, you could see that didn't communicate with their pilots, and the pilots that did not read the NOTAMs, they're over there calling in a full panic because the pilots did not relay that information to them. And that goes into the
Yep.
pre-flight planning aspect of flying. So if you really need to do a pre-flight, not only to save your life, maybe, but just to make your life a whole lot easier as a pilot. We have so much responsibility, especially on the 135 side. We have dispatchers, but we do follow our own flight plan. We do our own fuel. We read our own NOTAMs, and we communicate with the passengers, unlike flight attendants on a Part 121 airline, to where, mainly the flight attendants and the gate agents will take most of the bashing if there is an issue. On the private side of flying, you're looking at the guy that gets it. So we just really take all of our time and communicate all the good information, all the bad information to the passengers as soon as possible. So that way we have something to work on and we can plan our evening, our day, and our night, and everything just goes much smoother that way. Very long winded, but I think it's important to hit on.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, to us, we've been doing this so long that to us these might sound to 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 our experience level as rudimentary things, but to a lot of people listening, it might be the first time they're ever hearing about this, right? Something they hadn't even considered before. And so that information you just gave, you know, it could also change somebody whose mind who's more of a reactive and not proactive, right? And so being proactive, just taking it's crazy how, I've heard guys in the past, complain about, oh, it's a lot of extra stuff. It's like, dude, it takes an extra couple minutes and it saves you all that headache and frustration. And think about it, if you're a contract guy or a Part 91 guy, you might have just lost your job because you didn't check and your passenger is now sitting there looking like an idiot
And
for a
yeah,
couple hours with
in front
nowhere
of
to
all
go.
their
Eh,
friends, everybody can see. It's very
Dude.
embarrassing for everybody involved, right?
Oh, at that level? Yeah, at that level, it's extremely embarrassing if you're, "Oh, yeah, the private jet's waiting for us, let's go." And then they get there, "Wait, we can't go?" Like,
And by the
because the
way, the
pilot didn't
airplane's
do
not
the due
only here, but
diligence?
it's sitting in Memphis and it can't land for another 3 hours. Uh-oh.
Yep, yep,
We got
you
problems.
know?
We got problems,
Right,
boys.
see, and so this might, this is really I think this is helpful for people getting in that wanna go into the 91, 135 world. These are some of the problems you're gonna run into in that world. And if you're proactive and educated, you mitigate a a lot of these problems. And you end up looking like the superstar while everybody else, their clients are sitting there and you get to walk right by them because you did your due diligence, right? You
Exactly.
know how
And
much of a hero you look like?
and and I can't harp on this enough. If you have bad news and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it, tell your people.
Yep.
Tell them, because you start holding some bad news close to the chest and all of a sudden it starts snowballing to a point where you can't control it anymore. You're right, you will be fired. So give these guys that are flying these private jets, they're most of them are very nice, very understanding. They've been very successful in life to get to the point of where they are and how they're traveling. They can handle it. They understand things happen. But you start lying to them or you start not giving them the bad news early, they don't have time for that, man.
No, ain't nobody got time for that. No, and, and,
Oh, I think we beat that
s
one to death.
yeah, yeah, no, hey, that was good, that was great, great, we wanted to talk more about GA, so I'm really glad um, that we can bring you on so I could talk about that 'cause, that's the majority of my career was in GA. One last thing to touch on with GA, winter ops are coming.
Yes.
And so, worrying about icing, it's something I noticed flying in the 135 and 91 side of things was the hesitancy because of the cost of getting sprayed, de-ice and anti-ice. So, a lot of the times people do the heated hanger thing and, pull it out and try to rush. But, the last big crash we saw was in Provo, Utah, with the Phenom that they tried to do that. They pulled it out of the hangar. It, they taxied out, tried to get to the end of the runway, got covered in ice on the ground, and they made it 10, 15 feet off the ground from the thrust and then rolled it over and killed a couple people. And so, just be cognizant of that, everybody. It's whether, if you're able to afford getting sprayed, that's the way to go. When I flew up in Alaska, when I was doing bush stuff, we would carry one of those spray pumps that you like spray pesticides with, filled with
Oh
glycol,
yeah.
and we'd put it
The
under
pump.
our seats in the PC-12s in the caravans, and we would take that with us. And if we got, if we're on the ground in a village and we got ice, just take it out and you get to glycol your wings down right there. Man, it works. You can't argue with results, man.
That's some manly
But
stuff
hey,
right there.
dude, I mean, yeah, you have a ladder in the back of the airplane and you or under in the belly pod and you pull it out and you do what you got to do. Um, but it was safe. It was not, it was you're spraying it yourself, but you're spraying it. So that's an option. It sometimes it's better to go tomorrow, especially if you fly in a airplane that you can't de-ice or that the people you fly for don't want to pay for it. It's not worth risking your life and career and the lives of others to try to save somebody a few bucks. That's my little soapbox on that one, guys.
And that's whenever you communicate with your passengers. You see a big ice storm rolling in, you let them know, hey, we can either go on the 11th or we can go on the 14th. You pick your day. I the days between there, the airplane's not moving. I'll be out there at the
Yeah,
airplane inspecting it, and I'll let you know if for whatever reason it can. But the forecasts say it can't go. I'll be out there doing my job. But do you want to go on the 11th or the 14th? And if you can't do that, then maybe you need an airline.
right. Well, exactly. Great point. And I'm so glad you're bringing this up because lately I've been so stuck in the airline mindset of, oh, we just go big city to big city. But while you're talking, I'm thinking back to, I flew air ambulances in Western Kansas, King Airs. And I remember, I was at no, this was at Garden City when I was based out there. There would be days in a row, we'd get an ice storm that rolls through and it would be 3 days. I couldn't open the hangar doors. The ramp was just a sheet of ice.
Yeah.
We're not going anywhere. Sorry. Like we can't even get the airplane out of the hangar. Like and so, people that are flying into rural areas and smaller airports, these are real problems. You just sometimes you just can't go. And so, knowing ahead of time that that's coming by doing your pre-flights and your due diligence and looking at the weather days or weeks ahead it could save you huge headaches, like you said. Connor, if you're a diligent charter pilot or corporate guy or whatever, and you've done your due diligence and you see that storm's coming, and you're able to tell them, hey, we can go a day earlier than you wanted to go, or probably going to be stuck here for 3 more days. You know,
Exactly.
and you're what I've noticed when I've had to do that with clients in the past was they might initially, yeah, they're frustrated because they have to adjust their plans, but then everybody else gets stuck and they're able to make a decision if they want, I don't want to leave a day early, but they do. And then they got where they wanted to go and everybody else got stuck. And,
Or you can end up like that
you know,
phenom. it's
Oh God.
these are grave consequences that a lot of guys that are riding don't always think about. Most of them do.
Yeah.
Most of them want to get there, but I have heard stories where, hey, we're going. And I've heard guys lose their jobs because they say, no, sir, no, ma'am, we're not. Gone.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, is that somebody you want
Yep.
to be flying for? I
Exactly.
don't know. That's up for you
Nope.
to decide. But
Not me.
at the end of the day,
Yeah.
you just don't want to be one of these 130 fatal accidents that we read about earlier. I don't want to read about anybody in the paper. We need to, and we're doing better at it. We just need to be smarter. We need to
Yeah.
all the risk mitigation. We have to level every one of those out and say, okay, this says we can go, this says we can go, this says we can't. Whenever I was flying medevac, I did medevac in the King Air. It was two to go, one to say no. We had pilot
Yep.
flying, a flight nurse, and a flight medic. If one of those people, that's not even the pilot, says no, two to go, one to say no, that means we're not going. Now,
Yep.
you might have to call the director of operations and tell him why you don't want to go whenever the pilot wants to go. But guess what? Maybe that layer of protection is built in, so we're not a statistic at the end of the day. And that's the way
Yeah.
I think about it. And I just try to be as safe as possible because every time we take these airplanes off, it's a risk. There's no doubt about it. This is a dangerous industry that we're talking about, and it's a very rewarding career, but it is dangerous.
Right.
And we do it day in and day out. We start taking things for granted, and we don't need to fall victim to that. It's easy to do.
Yep. Yep. Easily. Very easy to do. Um, so yeah, yeah, glad we covered all that. So while we were getting ready for this, UPS released, or sorry, the NTSB released the preliminary report of UPS flight 2976, which is the MD-11 that crashed at Louisville. And it's disturbing, to say the least. I'm going to screen share it so I could show the images. Here we go. All right. So they released some new images. So typical NTSB report, you've got just kind of what happened when it happened. You were saying, Connor, it doesn't say this exact thing in the report, but you were saying that there was a statement released saying that the aft pylon bolt on the left engine was corroded and sheared. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. So on the NTSB website, the preliminary report, it states, and I quote, "The engine detached and a fire started." Everybody that saw the video
Yes.
knows that there was a fire. A little bit further analysis now is saying that the pylon to wing aft mount lug, so the screw more or less that connects the pylon to the wing, showed fatigue. It was last inspected in 2021, which is well within the realm of inspection. There's people online saying that, oh my goodness, they're flying 4 years without inspecting this single part. According to everything that I've read, it is within specification. That does not need to be inspected annually, but it was inspected in 2021, and they're saying that the bolt or bolts that connected the nacelle that connected the engine pylon to the wing showed fatigue, and over time it cracked just enough, and then we now see what happened. It looked like it just completely gave away. The engine
Yeah.
detached from the wing, rolled up over the wing, completely detached, and just started spiraling out of control. I'm sure it severed the hydraulics, the flight controls, and really was just a sad and terrible accident. There are some images that we're looking at now. Um, but
Yeah.
at the end
So
of the day, those pilots, I really believe, did the best that they could. And my heart goes out to the three crew members and their families that passed away, and the 11 ground fatalities and their family. We're keeping y'all in our prayers, and that it's certainly terrible to have an event like that, just so highly publicized, happen to you and your family. We really regret that happened, and in the 23 that were injured on the ground, our thoughts and prayers are with you as well.
amen, brother. Yeah, it's terrible tragedy. So yeah, down a few pages into this report on page 5, I've got it up here. They show the MD-11 engine pylon to wing connection, so they talk about what it is, and where it's located, and they've got some diagrams here of what the part is, and then they do have a picture of it, of what it looks like. It sounds like, I could be wrong, but this was the same issue that brought down the DC-10
In
back in,
Chicago.
what was that? Yeah, American Flight 191, which everybody was afraid to hear. So, I will now throw up this is the NTSB released. This is the still images from the security cameras of the sequence of events. So they'd actually rotated already, and here you can see where the pylon shears, engine detaches, starts the fire, and literally flies up and spirals over the top of the aircraft, it appears. Um, and right here, it's spiraled and it's heading downward. And this is what it looks like at the end. Just horrific. This is one of the last security shots they got from a different angle over from one of the warehouse areas. The whole wing's on fire. Unfortunately, they tried, but they were flying a mortally wounded bird, unfortunately. And yeah, it was just terrible. So we wanted to give everybody an update because that is now out there. It's really sad if it does end up being the same issue that brought down the American flight. It's just uh, talk about a real tragedy that it's a known factor um, that possibly could have been prevented. I'm not going to start judging, but I'm just saying hypothetically, if that was the case, it's going to be very disappointing. I'm kind of hoping it's something different, just for sake of it not being that preventable. But who knows? We're going to find out. Um,
Well, and
so I wanted to get him. Yeah,
if there's any light to this, which there's not, with this American 191 DC-10 that crashed 46 years ago, that there was no CCTV footage, closed circuit TV.
right.
Well, we're now in a day and age now to where everything is on video. Okay, so everywhere from 6 or 7 car dash cameras caught this. We now have these new
Hmm.
images coming out from the NTSB of these CCTV images. 46 years ago, we didn't have any of this. So now we're able to document this. This crash happened, I want to say, close to 20 days ago, maybe a month ago now. We're recording this on the 20th. But the fact that we already
Yeah.
have an idea 20 to 30 days after this crash, I mean, these families aren't scratching their head and wondering what happened. We can at least give these people some kind of answers, if and expedite this grieving process. And
Right.
switching gears, that they did ground the MD-11 and the DC-10 aircraft. These are old aircraft. These are not being
Yeah.
manufactured anymore. And so it'll be interesting to see how quickly they start phasing these aircraft out after this high profile accident.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, and if it is something as simple as the corrosion on the bolt, it's a real shame that it was overlooked. And luckily it can be something that they can uh quickly evaluate and repair if needed.
Right.
Because there's still quite a few, especially in the cargo world. There's quite a few of these airplanes. I know FedEx and UPS fly them, at least here in the United States, and I'm sure, you know, around the world, several other operators are still doing it. I've noticed, even on a personal level, like, I had a shipment delayed on UPS because of this, because the system's so backed up in UPS that a bunch of stuff across the country is just they've got multiple aircraft, multiple heavy aircraft down now. So they're trying to pick up the slack with everywhere else and ground shipping. It's created quite a ripple effect. And just like we just got over a government shutdown, and just to see how much this the current world relies on air travel and air cargo, is pretty wild to see how much our industry affects just day-to-day stuff with people. Our hearts and prayers are with the families of the crew, the people on the ground, those who are injured, and it's a terrible tragedy, and, we never wanna see this, but unfortunately it is. That airplane had, like, 280,000 pounds of fuel or something crazy on it. I mean, when you put a 500,000 pounds into an airplane and shoot it across the sky at point 0.80, it's a miracle every day, right? And unfortunately, it takes events like this to remind some people that, hey, this is serious. Serious. There are a lot of consequences in our industry that we have to be pay attention to and be careful about.
Man, I couldn't have said it better myself.
Uh,
And yeah, it's
yeah,
just
man.
sad to see it happen. But we'll continue to hopefully learn from this. Again, I'm not a mechanic. I'm a pilot. The
Right.
maintenance will learn from this. And we'll continue to make this career safer because of it. And again, just hearts and prayers and thoughts to those affected. It really is terrible. And then you have
Yep.
guys like the guy that was jump seating on Alaska trying to pull fire handles. He's trying to do it on purpose. I mean, it's
Yep.
almost like this is a safe industry, but you have one event that is absolutely just a freak of nature. Hate that it happened. Then you have somebody up there doing it on purpose. And the fellow we're talking about, this happened back in late of 2023. He was an Alaskan pilot. He was jump seating on an Embraer 175. He took psychedelic mushrooms and thought that it was a good idea to jump seat back home. Yeah, I said that right. Psychedelic mushrooms. I've never in my life thought of taking them. I've read about what they do. I just know that it's not a good idea to put your career in harm's way by taking these, much less getting on an airplane and trying to shut off the engines. Well, long story short, this guy, the governor or the prosecutor, whoever was involved in this case, let him off on time served. He served 46 days in the pen, waiting for his day in court. Right. Well, he got let off with time served, 46 days, sentenced to 5 years of probation, 600 hours of community service, and shocker, he's forbidden to go within 25 feet of an aircraft. So whoever his lawyer is, I want to hire him if I ever get in trouble because he got off lightly. Um,
Yes.
but at the end of the day, be careful, be smart, make good
Yep.
decisions, and thoughts and prayers with that guy as well. I mean, he obviously was fighting some demons. I think he was mourning the loss of one of his friends. A bunch of his friends went out, according to the report, and had a big visual for him, and took a bunch of mushrooms, things like that. And then he thought it was a good idea to get on an aircraft and try and shut off the engines on the jump seat. So again,
Yeah.
just that was in the news today. I thought that I would bring that up for our listeners, and it really is a safe industry, but you got to be careful. Thoughts?
No, yeah, we talked about when we had Cora on the aviation therapist, we talked about this a little bit. It's Captain Emerson, he was former Captain Emerson.
Hmm.
Um, it highlights the part of the mental health issue we have in this country and in our industry, right? This event actually was a pretty big highlight. I don't know if this event directly led to some of the mental health reform, but maybe even indirectly, if not directly. Um, just he got off easy. That's for sure. Considering everything they threw at him, he was able to plea down to lesser charges and got off with essentially what would be a slap on the wrist compared to what he could have been hit with. I don't know, man. Like, you're right. Nobody should be doing illicit drugs, number one, especially in our industry. And on top of that, nobody should be doing illicit drugs and then getting on an aircraft, even if you're not flying the flight and you're jump seating. That's insane. We have a lot of responsibility we're given, and you have very high standards expected of you. And if you're unable to handle, what you got going on in life, and you're depressed, or you got a lot of issues, there's ways to get help out there, not resorting to illicit drug use. And that's what I'm going to say on that. And it is pretty wild that he got off pretty easy. But
Yeah,
like you
it
said, if you ever get in trouble, you got to find his lawyers.
I wanna lawyer up with his lawyer because, wow, yeah, that's pretty good. And, I don't mean to poke fun of it or anything because it's pretty serious, but, could have ended much worse, much worse.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I
Yeah,
think I
yeah.
read
The
the
you know the
report.
the
He
crew.
on the
Yep.
Embraer 175, he pulled the fire handles, which are located at the top. You pull them out, that arms the squibs, and the squibs basically
Right.
when it whenever you and then so you pulled them, and then whenever you turn them, that blows the halon into the engines. Halon is a fire suppression system. It's equipped on most aircraft to put fires out in case of a fire. If he would have turned them sideways,
Right.
if he had had the aircraft knowledge to do that, he would have put both engines out, and they would have been dead sticking an Embraer 175. Probably, I forget where they landed, maybe Seattle, but you'd have a glider with 70, 75 people on board, and who knows what would have happened then, right? So thank
Sure.
God it worked out, and I think he learned his lesson. I remember this happened whenever I was in my NDOC at my 121 airline, and everybody was starting to kind of be a little worried about, hey, 121 pilots, we use the jump seat to get to work a lot to commute. Is this going to
Yeah.
disrupt how we get to work? I
Right.
mean, this thing could have snowballed into something much bigger. Glad it didn't. Pretty and another high profile incident.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Normally, it just and generally in most aircraft, when you pull the handles, like you said, it arms, and then you have to have an activating action. And in that case, um, when if he had turned it, it would have discharged the squids, but it also probably would have shut off the electrical, hydraulics, pneumatic systems from that engine. All the different systems. So like you said, it would have just turned it into an iron glider, basically. An action like that would create a very very tough situation to handle.
Yeah.
And yeah. So anywho, man, good updates on all that stuff today. Thanks for coming back on, Connor. Thanks for being my co-host today, and
Hey
we
man,
hope
I'm
John
always I'm always in the
has a
bullpen, man.
hasn't.
You give me a call
Heck
anytime.
yeah,
Whenever,
bro.
whenever I get the
Yeah.
opportunity to come on here, I always enjoy it, man. I like talking airplanes, and I like learning about, like you taught me today about all those closures. Had never heard. I mean, I knew
Oh
about
yeah.
that website, but I mean the fact that you can go on there and really see that detailed information. I mean, you're always learning. So hey, the pleasure's mine, dude. And
Yeah.
anytime, hopefully, I get to see you and John again here before too long.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, we're gonna try to get a few more episodes lined up before the end of the year. John's in the process of closing on his house. I just bought a house, and with holidays and stuff, everything's been busy, but I think we're getting back on a track now where we're able to put it, hopefully 3+ episodes a month out, and trying to get on that schedule again. I know I've been saying that for a while, but we've at least been getting a couple out, and we try to get more out. And we're looking forward to hearing from all the listeners, getting your feedback. We love getting the emails and the direct messages. Reach out to us. Our email is autopilotonpodcast@gmail.com. On the socials, we're on TikTok, X, Instagram. We publish the episodes and all our clips on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. And then everything's also on our website, which is autopiloton.com. So thanks again for listening, everybody, and happy holidays, and we'll catch you on the next one.
See ya.